Here at Nomad Capitalist, we've been hearing from a lot of people who are making a lot of money investing in, trading, Bitcoin, other cryptocurrencies. And some people are becoming wealthy from these investments for the very first time. Today, I'm going to walk you through the steps that I would take and the thoughts that I would think about if I were a newly minted crypto millionaire. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. I'm the author of this book and the founder of Nomad Capitalist, where we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. And so my overall perspective, having talked to a lot of folks in the crypto space, interviewing influencers here on our channel, and getting the feedback that any crypto-friendly country is basically a crypto-neutral country. It's hard to tell which direction every country is going to go. So if I'm in the Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency space, I want to hedge my bets and I want to make sure that I'm in the best place that I can be. For me, this is the ultimate example, something that's new, something that is perhaps maligned by the political class, something that has not been entirely regulated or adjudicated yet. That to me is the ultimate reason, if I'm in that asset class, to go where I'm treated best. And so I'm going to give you 2 tips today on the human side, and then a number of tips on the strategic side that I would be thinking about if I were newly wealthy as someone who had invested in cryptocurrency. And so the first thing is, I think I want to make sure I have my mindset right, and I want to make sure I'm doing this because I enjoy it, I believe in it. Here's the reality. No one cares that you have $5 million, $10 million, $100 million. It's not going to really change, and especially once you get out into the world, it's not going to influence anyone really any differently. So I would make sure that I'm doing something that I believe in, that I enjoy. Everyone I talk to feels that way, but certainly there must be people out there who are basically riding the train, who are cashing in. And if that's you, I would make sure I'm finding something that I truly believe in and that I can have a sense of confidence about myself in beyond just the money that I'm making. The second thing is, since I am looking to build a hedge as a crypto investor, I would ask myself some serious questions about what my goals are, and you'd be amazed how many times I talk to folks and they're really not entirely sure where they want to be. Now, I understand that having a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, those things can change, and so you don't want to plan out your entire life necessarily or be rigid in that. But I would want to know, if I'm single, do I want to date? Whom do I want to date? What kind of people am I interested in dating? Am I interested in getting married or not? Am I going to have kids? Do I have kids? If I'm already married, or if I'm in a relationship, do I have kids? How does that impact my plans? Are they young? Are they old? Am I going to put them in school? What are my thoughts on that? Where do I want to live in the future? Do I like the country that I live in now? For someone like myself, even if the U.S. tax rate was 0, I would not want to live there. But for many people, the reason they leave the United States and other countries like it is purely because of the high taxation. And so is an idea of you're going to make as much money as possible. There's a point when you're going to sell. If so, when do you think that's going to be? Again, it's a moving target, but what is your long-term game plan? Are you going to hold for life? And again, how does that dictate? The fact that if the laws in a place like the U.S. are going to become more rigid, are you comfortable leaving the U.S. for potentially the rest of your life? Or is this something where you're going to go out for 5 years, save a whack of cash, come back? Those are all things that I would ask myself. Now, what would I do strategically? If I'm in crypto and I see the values and the crazy increases that we've seen in the last 12 to 15 months, the first thing I would do is I would get myself situated in a low-tax country. Now, that may require me to pay an exit tax to do that, or it may require me to at least lock in the value of my assets at the amount when I leave and pay a tax later on those assets. But I would get out. I would suck up whatever the tax is, assuming that you do, that the values are going to go higher. You're going to continue to make more money. And I would get myself to a tax-friendly country or even a zero-tax country. So if I'm an American, that might be Puerto Rico. Why? Because I'm looking for the path of least resistance. I personally did not choose to go to Puerto Rico because I've spent years traveling all over the world and largely avoiding traveling to a lot of places in the United States. However, if you are not entirely comfortable moving somewhere far away, take the path of least resistance. If you live in the EU, maybe you move to a lower tax EU country. Maybe you move to a place like Portugal. Maybe you move to a place like Germany or Austria temporarily, not thinking that those places might be the be-all, end-all forever, but doing something that's comfortable. Because if it's not going to be comfortable, you're not going to do it, right? And so I've talked to a number of people recently who they live in California, and their goal was to move to Nevada or to Florida. And the idea of moving to Nevada or Florida, which was much more, where they also have no friends, they have no infrastructure there, that seemed much more comfortable than the idea of moving to Puerto Rico, moving to Singapore. And so I think that making those steps, now I would skip over the step entirely of just leaving California or just leaving, your local community to save just a tiny little bit of tax. I'm looking to make the easiest move that saves me the biggest amount of tax. So whatever it is that you're comfortable with, that's what I would do. And again, if I'm going to move to Puerto Rico, for example, I'm going to figure out, all right, how much crypto do I have when I move to Puerto Rico? That's going to continue to be taxable. If I'm leaving a country like Canada or Australia or other Western countries, I may be subject to an exit tax. I'm going to pay that with glee. I'm going to take some assets off the table. I'm going to pay the tax, which may not be due, the day you leave in most cases. I mean, you may have some time to pay that. So it's not like, you leave and the next day you get a bill necessarily. But I would gladly pay that tax if I thought, hey, I've got 5 million now, but I think I can continue to trade and go to 20 million. And I'll tell you what, this is something that's hard to understand entirely until you've done it. But I can tell you, myself and multiple other people I've worked with have come to me and said, you know what, I'm moving somewhere where the taxes are 0% or 5% or something like that. It's motivated me to be a lot more ambitious. In the case of trading, I have traders, not just crypto, but day traders, et cetera, who say, I'm much more aggressive, I'm getting a lot more done, I'm working harder, I'm making a lot more money, and I'm keeping a lot more of the money I already have because now I feel good that I'm not giving half of it away. So don't discount that when you move yourself. You're going to feel a lot better. It can be a tough pill to swallow in terms of maybe paying a tax to get out, depending on how much you have. Doesn't apply to everybody, by the way, but also making that move. So keep it as simple as possible. The second thing I would recommend on the strategic side is I would start exploring. People say, oh, you can't go anywhere in the world today. There are places that are open, absolutely. And they're the kind of places that maybe you want to explore more. If I'm a crypto investor, I don't want to go and spend my time in Canada or in Australia or any of these other legacy brand countries. I want to go to places where they're open for business and I can go and I can explore. And because you're in a business or you have income that comes from the cloud, you're not tied to one location, even perhaps less so than someone running an online business. I would be exploring. So I would set up my tax home somewhere. If I'm an American, again, that could be in Puerto Rico. If I'm not an American, then I'm going to look for some other place where I can maybe get a tax home with a lesser physical presence without having to spend 6 months a year there. Even if I do choose a place where I'm spending 6 months a year to lock in my tax status, make sure I have my shield against taxes from wherever I'm coming from, that I'm going to spend the rest of my time. So whether it's 6 months, 9 months, 10 months, a year exploring, I'm going to go around and check out different places, especially if I haven't been traveling that much, especially if I just started out as someone who believed in crypto 5 years ago, 10 years ago, bought it at $5 a Bitcoin, and maybe I wasn't the person who did travel. Now I would really focus on going out there and seeing what it is that I like. Because here's what I see. I want you to stay in that low tax place. I want you to stay in that freedom friendly place as long as you can. And if for some reason, Puerto Rico is a perfect example. A lot of people I talk to don't want to go to Puerto Rico. I get it, neither did I. Now I chose to go one step further and just totally cut my ties with the US, which is why I say perhaps the best thing is the path of least resistance to start. But how many people go to Puerto Rico, they get sick of it? Or another example, how many people who are from the US or the UK or Australia or Canada go to one of the other countries that are basically the same thing and they say, oh, this offshore thing doesn't work? Yeah, because you went to the wrong place. I would be looking at Latin America. I'd be looking at Europe, potentially Eastern Europe, parts of Southern Europe that are trying to be crypto friendly. I'd be looking at Asia, places that are tax friendly. If you want to look at other places, if you want to go to some more off-the-wall places, go ahead and do that. But those, I think, for most people are the three main areas. Go and explore and see what works for you. Again, from a social perspective, from a lifestyle perspective, if you haven't left your country before, you're going to notice a difference in some of the cultures. If you're from the United States, Mexico, or even a Colombia or somewhere in Central America is going to be more culturally understandable for you at first than going somewhere in Eastern Europe or going somewhere that's off the grid in Southeast Asia. And so I would be exploring and getting comfortable. Then I would continue to create my identity. So again, I'm going to have my tax residence. I'm going to have a home there, not only because that's going to strengthen my case that I'm no longer paying taxes somewhere else, and it's often going to be required in places like Puerto Rico. Where's my home? but then I'm also going to basically have an identity around that to strengthen my connection to that place, not only so that it works from a tax perspective, but so that I don't want to go back. I think that nothing wrong with dragging a suitcase behind you, but and I've done it for many years. I think a lot of people get burned out on that more quickly than having at least some kind of base where they can create an identity. That's their home. It makes sense to them, and they're going to stay out there longer, maximizing their savings. Because I think in legacy brand Western countries, taxes and regulations on crypto are by and large only going to get worse. The two last things that I would do, and you could do these largely at the same time, is I would get a second passport in a crypto neutral, or if you can, crypto friendly country, preferably one that is tax free, or at least does not tax capital gains. And so there are some that are not income tax free but may have no capital gains tax. Now, if I'm in crypto, I've been saying this for over 4 years now, I would be getting my hands on multiple second passports. I'm a big believer in having a second passport portfolio, 2, 3, 4 in some cases, to protect yourself. And I've talked in my video, for example, about the Great American Plan B, just for U.S. Persons in particular, how I might put together that residence and citizenship portfolio. But for crypto in particular, sure, if you have a relative from Italy and you can claim Italian citizenship, it's probably going to take you 4 or 5 years, which is too long to begin with. Even some of the more efficient citizenship by descent programs are taking quite a while right now due to COVID. But I'm not going to entirely rely on being German or being Italian. Who knows what those countries could do in terms of regulations, in terms of applying taxation on citizens, extraterritorial taxation. I'm going to look for a passport. I'm not a huge fan of Vanuatu's program in the way it's being run, but something like that. One of the programs in the Caribbean, potentially if I want something that's a little bit more reputable. I look at a Grenada, for example, which has some benefits. I look at an Antigua. I look at a St. Kitts and Nevis. You could make an argument that Malta has tried to be somewhat crypto friendly. If you have a lot of money in crypto and you want to splash out on about $1 million program, I might not do Malta exclusively. If I'm spending that amount of money, I might spend just a little bit more and get a second passport. But I would do that to make sure that I'm going to be on the right side of crypto taxes and crypto regulation against legacy brand countries. I'll take an Italian passport, but I'm not going to rely on that as my second passport as much as a crypto investor as I would anyone else. And the last thing that I would personally do, not everyone will agree, is I would start to take some of my gains off the table as I felt comfortable and start diversifying that into assets around the world that I think have strong potential. And so again, if I'm from a legacy brand country, I'm not going to necessarily go back there and invest. I think there could be conflicts in terms of being a crypto investor and having assets in those countries. But I would start establishing bank accounts elsewhere. I still think, and I've interviewed a number of crypto folks who still believe, hey, you need to have some on-ramp from the fiat system. I would want the best bank accounts. I would want to go to places that respected what I do, whether it's in Singapore, Switzerland, Belarus, Portugal, what have you, and have that. I would want to start making real estate investments in foreign countries. If I'm an American, for example, I can make those real estate investments and have them be legally non-reportable to the U.S. And so I would start to do that. Now the income's not reportable, but I would basically build my base, because for me, I'm a bit more of a risk-averse person. I understand that there are plenty of crypto maxis who they feel comfortable with 100%. I'd like to at least have a home that I own. And I see that in relationships, when there's a couple, one person's more into crypto than the other, it's often very soothing, very calming to the person who's not involved in crypto in that relationship to have some kind of assets, maybe some gold in a vault, maybe a home that you own that the kids can play in the backyard. And I think that from a relational perspective and from a personal perspective, that may make you more able to go out and be more aggressive with what you have and continue to grow your portfolio. But I want to have assets around the world in countries that I think are heading in the right direction. Real estate, whether it's to live in or whether it's to rent out or just to hold. Potentially some of that real estate could be used to get extra residences or passports. But that's what I would be doing. So it's basically understanding myself, putting together my plan B, moving physically to get the best tax benefits possible, and then making sure that I'm going to be set for life and starting to create real long-term wealth. So for those of you who are doing very well in crypto, I know a lot of you are, leave a comment below. what is it you're doing to protect your wealth? What is it you're doing to grow your wealth using the things we talk about here at Nomad Capitalist? I want to hear from you. And if you are a newly minted crypto millionaire and you're looking to figure out how you can do all this stuff, we've got a lot of free resources on nomadcapitalist.com, here in our channel, in our book, and of course we're happy to help you individually as well. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.